वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. जय गुरुदेव, जय प्रभुपाद. 6? Are we on 6? 5? Alright. Canto 1, text, chapter 7, text 5. Jai Srila Gurudev, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks himself as the material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. Purport. The root cause of suffering by the materialistic living beings is pointed out with the remedial measure which are to be undertaken and also the ultimate perfection to be gained. All this is mentioned in a particular verse. The living being is by constitution transcendental to material engagement, but he is now imprisoned by the external energy, and therefore he thinks himself one of the material products. And due to this holy contact, the pure spiritual entity suffers material miseries under the modes of material nature. The living entity misunderstands himself to be a material product. This means that present perverted way of thinking, feeling and willing under material conditions is not natural for him. But he has his normal way of thinking, willing, feeling. The living being in his original state is not without thinking, willing, feeling, power. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that actually knowledge of the conditioned soul is now covered by nescience. Thus, the theory that a living being is absolute impersonal Brahman is refuted herein. This cannot be because the living entity has his own way of thinking in his original conditional state also. The present conditional state is due to the influence of the external energy, which means that the illusory energy takes the initiative while the Supreme Lord is aloof. The Lord does not desire that a living being be illusioned by the external energy. The external energy is aware of this fact, but she still accepts a thankless task of keeping the forgotten soul under illusion by her bewildering influence. The Lord does not interfere with the task of illusory energy because such performance of illusory energy are also necessary for reformation of the conditioned soul. An affectionate father does not like his children to be chastised by another agent. Yet he puts his disobedient children under the custody of a severe man just to bring them to order. But the all affectionate Almighty Father at the same time desires relief for the conditioned souls, relief from the clutches of the illusory energy. The king puts the disobedient citizens within the walls of the jail, but sometimes the king, desiring the prisoner's relief, personally goes there and pleads for reformation, and on his doing so, the prisoners are set free. Similarly, the Supreme Lord descends from his kingdom upon the kingdom of the Supreme Lord descends from his kingdom upon the kingdom of the illusory energy and personally gives relief in the form of the Bhagavad Gita, wherein he personally suggests that although the ways of the illusory energy are very stiff to overcome, one who surrenders onto the lotus feet of the Lord is set free by the order of the Supreme. This surrendering process is the remedial measure for getting relief from the bewildering ways of the illusory energy. The surrendering process is completed by the influence of association. The Lord has suggested, therefore, that by the influence of the speeches of saintly persons who have actually realized the Supreme, conditioned souls are engaged in the transcendental loving service. They get a taste for hearing about the Lord, and such hearing only are they gradually elevated to the platform of respect, devotion and attachment for the Lord. The whole thing is completed by the surrendering process. Herein also the same suggestion is made by the Lord in the incarnation of Vyasadeva. This means that the conditioned souls are being reclaimed by the Lord both ways, namely by the process of punishment by the external energy of the Lord and by himself as the spiritual master within and without. Within the heart of every living being, the Lord himself as the Super Soul Paramatma becomes a spiritual master, and from without he becomes a spiritual master in the shape of the scriptures, saints, and initiating spiritual master. This is more explicitly explained in the next shloka. Personal superintendence of the illusory energy is confirmed in the Vedas, the Kena Upanishad, in relation to the demigods controlling power. Herein also it is clearly stated that living entity is controlled by the external energy in a personal capacity. The living being, thus subject to the control of the external energy, is differently situated. It is clear, however, from the present statement of Srimad Bhagvatam that the same external energy is situated in the inferior position before the personality of Godhead or the perfect being. The perfect being or the Lord cannot be approached even by the illusory energy, who can only work on the living entities. Therefore, it is sheer imagination that the Supreme Lord is illusioned by the illusory energy and thus becomes a living being. It is the living being that the Lord were in the same category. If the living being and the Lord were in the same category, then it would have been quite possible for Vyasadeva to see it, and thus and there would be and there would have been no question of material distress on the part of illusion being, for the Supreme Being is fully Radhe Radha Govind Radhe Radha Navan Radhe. Okay. Had the Lord and the living beings the same, the Srila Shukdev Goswami would not have taken the trouble to describe the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, for they would have all be the manifestations of illusory energy. Srimad Bhagavatam is the summum bonum remedy for the suffering humanity in the clutches of Maya. Srila Vyasadeva therefore first of all diagnosed the actual disease of the conditioned souls, i.e. their being illusioned by the external energy. He also saw the perfect Supreme Being from whom the illusory energy is far removed though he saw both the diseased conditioned souls and also the cause of the disease, and the remedial measures are suggested in the next verse. Both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living beings are undoubtedly qualitatively one, but the Lord is the controller of the illusory energy, whereas the living entity is the controller of the The Lord is the controller of the illusory energy, whereas the living entity is controlled by the illusory energy. Thus, the Lord and the living beings are simultaneously one and different. Another point is distinct herein. The eternal relation between the Lord and the living being is transcendental. Otherwise, the Lord would not have taken the trouble to reclaim the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In the same way, the living entity is also required to retrieve his natural love and affection for the Lord, and that is the highest perfection of the living entity. Srimad Bhagavatam treats the conditioned souls with an aim to the goal of life. Would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhu, can you please put the verse on the screen?
Oh, sorry, my screen is not shared.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay.
Text 6.
Text 6. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead. This statement suggests that the complete unit of the personality of Godhead includes his parts and parcels also. He saw, therefore, his different energies, namely the internal energy, the marginal energy, and the external energy. He also saw his different plenary portions and parts of the plenary portions, namely his different incarnations also, and he specifically observed the unwanted miseries of the conditioned souls who are bewildered by the external energy. And at last he saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls, namely the process of devotional service. It is a great transcendental science and begins with the process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, glory, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Revival of the dormant affection or love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. When the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, he may endow him with his loving transcendental service. But even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigation of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. Such mitigation of material affection does not wait for development of transcendental knowledge. Rather, knowledge is dependent on devotional service for the ultimate realization of the supreme truth. Text 7. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. Prabhupada's purport. There are various senses of which the ear is the most effective. This sense works even when a man is deep asleep. One can protect himself from the hands of an enemy while awake, but while asleep one is protected by the ear only. The importance of hearing is mentioned here in connection with attaining the highest perfection of life, namely getting free from three material pangs. Everyone is full of lamentation at every moment. He is after the mirage of illusory things, and he is always afraid of his supposed enemy. These are the primary symptoms of the material disease. And it is definitely suggested herein that simply by hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one gets attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And as soon as this is affected, the symptoms of the material disease disappear. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead, and in this statement, the all-perfect personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is clearly confirmed. The ultimate. Okay. I think I can finish this purport. I can do it. The ultimate result of devotional service is to develop genuine love for the Supreme Personality. Love is a word which is often used in relation with man and woman, and love is the only word that can be properly used to indicate the relation between Lord Krishna and the living entities. The living entities are mentioned as Prakriti in the Bhagavad Gita, and in Sanskrit, Prakriti is a feminine object. The Lord is always described as Parama Purusha, or the Supreme Male Personality. Thus, the affection between the Lord and the living entities is something like that between the male and the female. Therefore, the term love of Godhead is quite appropriate. How much longer is it actually? I thought maybe just this paragraph. Okay, I'll do it. Loving devotional service to the Lord begins with hearing about the Lord. There is no difference between the Lord and the subject matter heard about him. The Lord is absolute in all respects, and thus there is no difference between him and the subject matter heard about him. Therefore, hearing about him means immediate contact with him by the process of vibration of the transcendental sound. And the transcendental sound is so effective that it acts at once by removing all material affections mentioned above. As mentioned above, a living entity develops a sort of complexity by material association, and the illusory engagement of the material body is accepted as an actual fact. Can you highlight that sentence? Under such false complexity, the living beings under different categories of human life become illusioned in different ways. Even in the most developed stage of human life, the same illusion prevails in the form of many isms and divides the loving relation with the Lord, and therefore thereby divides the loving relation between man and man. By hearing the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, this false complexity of materialism is removed, and real peace in society begins, which politicians aspire for so eagerly in so many political situations. The politicians want a peaceful situation between man and nation, but at the same time, because of too much attachment for material domination, there is illusion and fearfulness. Therefore, the politicians' peace conferences cannot bring about peace in society. It can only be done by hearing the subject matter described in the Srimad Bhagavatam about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The foolish politicians may go on holding peace and summit conferences for hundreds of years, but they will fail to achieve success. Until we reach the stage of reestablishing our lost relation with Krishna, the illusion of accepting the body. Okay, chapter 7, just search the illusion of accepting the body. As the self will prevail, and thus fearfulness will also prevail. As for the validity of Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are hundreds and thousands of evidences from revealed scriptures, and there are hundreds and thousands of evidences from personal experiences of devotees in various places like Vrindavan, Navadvip, and Puri. Even in the Kaumudi dictionary, the symptoms of Krishna are given as the son of Yashoda and the Supreme Personality of Godhead Parabrahman. The conclusion is that simply by hearing the Vedic literature Srimad Bhagavatam, one can have direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and thereby one can attain the highest perfection of life by transcending worldly miseries, illusion, and fearfulness. These are practical tests for one who has actually given a submissive hearing to the readings of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Text 8. The great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Srila Shukdev Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras compiled by the same authors. The Brahma Sutras or the Vedanta Sutras is meant for those who are already engaged in self-realization. Srimad Bhagavatam is also made that one becomes at once engaged in the path of self-realization simply by hearing the topics, although it is specially meant for the Paramhamsas or those who are totally engaged in self-realization. It works in the depths of the heart of those who may be worldly men. Worldly men are engaged in sense gratification, but even such men will find in this Vedic literature a remedial measure for their material diseases. Srila Shukdev Goswami was a liberated soul, and from the beginning of his birth, and his father, and from the very beginning of his birth, and his father taught him Srimad Bhagavatam. Amongst mundane scholars, there is some diversity of opinion as to date of compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is, however, certain from the text that Srimad Bhagavatam that it was compiled before the disappearance of King Parikshit and after the departure of Lord Krishna. When Maharaj Parikshit was ruling this world as the king of Bharatvarsha, he chastised the personality of Kali according to the revealed scriptures and astrological calculation. In the age of Kali, in its 5000th year, therefore Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled not less than 5000 years ago. Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled before Mahabharata was compiled before Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Puranas were compiled before Mahabharata. That is an estimation of the date of compilation of the different Vedic literatures. The synopsis of Srimad Bhagavatam was given before the detailed description under instructions of Narada. Srimad Bhagavatam is a science for following the path of Nivritti Marg. The path of Pravritti Marg was condemned by Narada. The path is the natural inclination for all conditioned souls. The theme of Srimad Bhagavatam is the cure of the materialistic disease of the human being, or stopped completely the pangs of material existence. We'll talk about this later. Text 9. Srila Shaunaka asked Sutta Goswami, Srila Shukdev Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? For the people in general, highest perfection of life is to cease from material activities and be fixed on the path of self-realization. Those who take pleasure in sense enjoyment and those who are fixed in material bodily welfare work are called karmis. One out of thousands and millions of such karmis, one may become an Atmarama by self-realization. Atma means self and Atmarama means take pleasure. Everyone is searching for the highest pleasure, but standard of pleasure of one may be different from the standard of another. Therefore, the standard of pleasure enjoyed by the karmis is different from the antaratmas. The antaratmas are completely indifferent to material enjoyment in every respect. Srila Sukadeva Goswami had already attained the stage and still he was attracted to undergo trouble of studying the great Bhagavatam literature. This means that Srimad Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study even for the Atmaramas who have surpassed all Vedic knowledge. Text 10, Srila Shuta Goswami said, all different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the Atma or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this Atmarama Shloka very vividly there before his chief devotee Srila Sanatana Goswami. He points out 11 factors in the shloka. Okay, this is that shloka. Atmaramascha muneo negranti api ukrame kurvanti ahetukam bhaktim itham bhuta guno hari. Okay, namely Atmarama. He points out 11 factors in the shloka, namely Atmarama munaya nirgrantha api cha ukrama kurvanti ahetukim bhaktim itham bhuta gunaha, and 11 harihi. According to Vishwa Prakash Sanskrit Dictionary, there are 7 symptoms for the word Atma, which are as follows: Brahman, the absolute truth; body, mind, endeavor, endurance, intelligence, and personal habits. The word Munaya refers to those who are thoughtful, those who are grave and silent, ascetics, the persistent, mendicants, sages, and saints. The word Nigraha conveys the ideas: one who is liberated from nuisance, one who has no connection with spiritual injunction, and he freed from the obligation of the rules and regulations mentioned in the revealed scriptures like ethics, Vedas, philosophy, psychology, and metaphysics. In other words, the fools, illiterate urchins, etc., who have no connection with regulative principles, capitalists, and also who is penniless. According to Shabdakosh Dictionary, the affix nai is used in the sense of certainty, counting, building, forbiddance, and the word grantha is used in the sense of wealth, thesis, vocabulary, etc. The word ukrama means the one whose activities are glorious. Karma means step. The word ukrama specifically indicates Lord's incarnation as Vamana, who covered the whole universe by innumerable steps. Okay. Lord Vishnu is powerful and his activities are so glorious that he has created a spiritual world by his internal potency and the material world by his external potency. By his all-pervading features, he is everywhere present as the supreme truth, and in his personal feature, he is always present in his transcendental abode of Golok Vrindavan, where he displays his transcendental pastimes in all variegatedness. His activities cannot be compared to anyone else, and therefore the word urukrama is just applicable to him only. According to Sanskrit verbal arrangement, kurvanti refers to doing things for someone else. Therefore, it means that the Atma Rama render devotional service unto the Lord not for personal interest but for pleasure of the Lord. Urukrama. Hetu means causal. There are many causes for one's sense satisfaction, and they can be chiefly classified as material enjoyment, mystic powers, liberation, which are generally desired by progressive persons. As far as material enjoyments are concerned, they are innumerable, and the materialists are eager to increase them more and more because they are under the illusory energy. There is no end to the list of all material enjoyments, nor can anyone in the material universe have them all. As far as the mystic powers are concerned, they are 8 in all, such to become the minutest in form, to become weightlessness, to have anything one desires, to lord it over the material nature, to control over living beings, to throw earthly globes in outer space, etc. These mystic powers are mentioned in Bhagavatam. The forms of liberation are 5 in number. Therefore, unalloyed devotion means service to the Lord without desire for the above mentioned personal benefits, and the powerful personality of God, Sri Krishna, can be fully satisfied by such unalloyed devotees free from all sorts of desires for personal benefit. Unalloyed devotional service of the Lord progresses in different stages. Practical and devotional service in the material field is of 81 different qualities, and above such activity is the transcendental practice of devotional service, which is one and is called sadhana bhakti. When unalloyed practice for sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for God, Lord, the transcendental loving service of the Lord begins gradually developing into 9 progressive stages of loving service under the headings of attachment, love, affection, feeling, affinity, adherence, following, ecstasy, and intense feeling of separation. The attachment of an inactive devotee develops up to the stage of transcendental love of God. Attachment of an active servitor develops up to the stage of adherence, and that of the friendly devotee develops up to the stage of following. The same is also the case for the parental devotees. Devotees in conjugal love develop ecstasy up to the stage of intense feeling of separation. These are some of the features of unalloyed devotional service of the Lord. According to Hari, this is so big. Okay, maybe I will be able to complete. According to Hari Bhakti Sudhyoya, the import of the word Itham Bhuta is complete bliss. Transcendental bliss and the realization of impersonal Brahman becomes comparable to the scanty water contaminated in the pit made by a cow's hoof. It is nothing compared with the ocean of bliss of vision of personality of Godhead. The personal form of Sri Krishna is so attractive that it comprehends all attractions, all bliss, and all taste, rasas. These attractions are so strong that no one wants to exchange them for material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberation. There is no need of logical arguments in the support of this statement, but out of one's own nature, one becomes attracted by the qualities of Lord Sri Krishna. We must know for certain that the qualities of Lord have nothing to do with mundane qualities. All of them are full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. There are innumerable qualities of the Lord, and one is attracted by one quality while another is attracted by another. Great sages such as 4 bachelor devotees, Sanaka, Sanatan, Sanandan, Sanat Kumar, were attracted by the fragrance of the flowers and the tulsi leaves anointed with the pulp of sandalwood offered at the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, Srila Shukdev Goswami was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Ahobakiyam. Shukdev Goswami was already situated in the liberated stage, yet he was attracted by the Lord of pastimes of the Lord. This proves that the quality of his pastimes has nothing to do with material affinity. Similarly, The young cowherd themselves were attracted by the bodily features of the Lord, and Rukmini was attracted by hearing about the glories of the Lord. Lord Krishna attracts even the mind of the goddess of fortune. He attracts the special cases, the minds of all young girls. He attracts the minds of all of the elderly ladies by by parental affection. He attracts the mind of the males in the humors of servitude and friendships. Oh, wow. This is nice. The word Hari conveys various meanings, but the chief import of the word is that the Lord vanquishes everything inauspicious, takes away the mind of the devotee by awarding pure transcendental love. Hari Hari. By remembering the Lord in acute distress, one can be freed from all varieties of miseries and anxieties. Gradually, the Lord vanquishes all obstacles on the path of devotional service of a pure devotee, and the result of 9 devotional activities, such as hearing, chanting, becomes manifested. By his personal features and transcendental attributes, the Lord attracts all psychological activities of a pure devotee. Such is the attractive power of Lord Krishna. The attraction is so powerful that the pure devotee never hankers for any one of the 4 principles of religion. These are the attractive features of the transcendental attributes of the Lord. And adding to this the word apicha, one can increase the import immediately. According to Sanskrit grammar, there are 7 synonyms for the word api. So by interpreting each and every word of the shloka, one can see unlimited number of transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna that attracts the mind of a pure devotee. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Srila Prabhupada. We will read from text 11 tomorrow. 1, 7, 11.
Jai.
Jai Gurudev.